Okay, the shank is now completely textured. The stem was finished a few steps ago. The top of this has been dressed a little bit. We need to restain this, and then we're done. That's it. Just bring it back to looking like new. Now there's two steps to that. One is clean it, and then is color it. And the clean it step, you're probably not going to believe me when I tell you how to do that. But trust me, I've done it many hundreds of times, maybe thousands, for a very long time. And it works like a champ. And here's what you do. No, this is not an April Fool's Day joke. Take a toothbrush. On the side of your sink, squirt a little aspirin tablet sized dot of dish soap, the kind that in a squeeze bottle. The brand doesn't matter. Turn the faucet on warm with plenty of water flow. If you have a sprinkler head, that's even better. Wet the toothbrush ever so slightly. Just touch the tip of it in the dish soap. And then start doing this number under running water. Exactly like this. Just pretend these are teeth, I guess, in a circular motion. Just scrub, 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 scrub. Now you're wondering why you need to do that. It's because any of these old, especially old, sandblasts or rusticated pipes are literally packed with dirt. If you were to put on magnifying stuff like I've got here and start digging around in there, it is mud. It's skin oils and carbon dust and just, you name it, a half century or 100 years of it, and it packs up so much in many cases that these pipes will almost become smooth again. You can't get that out any other way than with a solvent designed for dirt. It's got an oil breakdown chemical in it, and it puts the dirt into solution and floats it away. That's the reason that stuff works so well. It's got detergents in it. Now you're going to think, well, that's going to mess up the briar. Keep the water running. Use a very, very little, just enough to get some sudsing going. You don't squirt the pipe down with dish soap. That's not what I'm saying. Just as little as you can get away with, and then keep the water running and rinse as you go. And rinse it well, dry it for a day. And I've done this many, many times for a very long time. It has no ill effects. It is undetectable. It doesn't leave any smells. It doesn't hurt the briar. It doesn't do anything. But if you don't clean to that extent and you attempt to finish over this dirt, you are going to have one ugly mess that then you're going to have to strip it with solvents, and it's going to always look bad. And this is a two-tone finish. It's got an undercolor and an overcolor, and you've got to get this thing back to clean before you can have any hope of coming up with a refinish that looks correct or convincing. So you don't need to watch me do that for real, because I just showed you exactly what's going to happen in my kitchen, and I don't want to haul all this equipment into the kitchen that's taking these photos or these movies. So I'm going to go do that, and then it dries for a day. So it'll be a 24-hour wait before I see you guys again. And then we will finish this in an undertone and then an overtone. And we'll get the highlights to come through the black, which is pretty cool. It's hard to do. It's a tricky business, but I'll show you how. And then we'll have a finished pipe and a happy customer, I hope. And we're in the home stretch. The stummel has been completely washed. The crud is gone. Even had to do it 3 times. This was one of those pipes that I mentioned earlier that it actually had become smooth looking from all of the packed in dirt and oils and stuff that were in it, that scrubbing and finally got the thing out, and it's really quite a nice blast. I'm not sure how this all works up close, but nice piece. So anyway, we've got this clean. It's completely dry, bone dry. The stem fit is perfectly normal, nothing expanded or contracted. That's just the nature of seasoned briar. It is immune to moisture. That's, I think, most of why it's a magic smoking material. It's high combustion point, but the fact that it remains so stubbornly stable when moisture levels ebb and flow throughout the seasons. It just shrugs off water and mild soaps. So anyway, this is going to be a two-part finishing process. The first one is to create the undercoat. Dunhill is rather famous for its sandblast. I guess they invented the process in the 1920s, maybe the late teens, something in there. And the nature of the trademark look of their sandblast is a brownish or reddish color underneath a black layer, and that the highlights then come through. Well, that's actually in practice a very tricky thing to replicate. A lot of people try and get frustrated trying to figure out how to do that. I'll show you a way that works every time, and it's counterintuitive in some ways, so that there's a surprise factor coming up later, I promise you. I even know guys that will use gutta percha and hit the high spots, and they'll do all this elaborate touching of the high, to keep the stain off they'll make it red and then treat it and then do layers of black and then use solvents and you don't need to do any of that. I'll show you a quick and easy way that is indistinguishable from the original. So anyway, I have gone through Fiebing's mahogany, cordovan, oxblood, and also another one here. Yeah, sorry. The color tone, it's a guitar stain, and it's available from the Stuart Mac guitar refinishing people. It's super concentrated, so if you take it straight from the bottle, it looks black. You have to dilute it significantly. A few drops will go a long way. But I finally, after messing with all the different tones available from these stains, came up with the right shade, or rather the right color tone, and then lightened it with a little more reddish and diluted it some. So over here on closest to me is, I think, a color that comes pretty close to the reddish undertone that Dunhill used. For whatever reason, lost to time, Dunhill used browns on some and reds on others, and I've never seen a reason for that, or anybody that could explain it. It's just a fact. So you don't want to make a brown pipe into a red pipe and vice versa. So this is just the red tape here is to keep, since we use real ivory for the dot, absolutely the last thing you want is to get stain on there, because it's an organic material and it'll go into it to enough of a depth that to sand it off, you'd then change the shape of the stem. If it were acrylic, I don't think you'd have that much of a problem. Now, if a little stain gets on the black here, it just wipes right off with alcohol. So I'm using the stem as a handle, and we're just gonna slather this stuff on. No artistry required. All we're doing is creating a heavy reddish undertone that will thoroughly dry, and then we'll put on the top coat, so to speak, and wax it, and the pipe will be finished. And a doubled over pipe cleaner as corny as it sounds, as fitting as it seems, it's tough to beat. I've messed with brushes and all kinds of stuff, and it seems like a doubled over pipe cleaner works as well as any and better than most. Oh yeah, to avoid getting seams, I'll show you here in just a second when this one starts to seam up. Avoid getting seams in stain jobs on smooth areas, and you know what those are because you probably had them. It's where the edges of the color field are darker than the interior, and it's when it soaks in or starts to dry unevenly. And there's a very easy fix for that, or prevention, not fix. Wear gloves, and as soon as you see it start to do that, just smear it by hand. Just literally as if you're trying to wipe it off. It won't go completely away, but it'll remove any of those stain rings, kind of seams that you don't want. And you just keep this going until it's really well covered. Probably want to put it on a little heavier here at the end of the shank because that was straight wood with no color at all. Later we're going to have to decide how shiny we want this pipe to be, and I maintain that the only way that a 75-year-old pipe or 65 or whatever is going to look right is if it is not made glossy. It is possible and not difficult to finish any pipe you want so that it looks like it's been dipped in liquid plastic or glass, but that the warmth and the kind of a, what's that word, patina doesn't come through. If you make an old pipe look like it was manufactured yesterday, it removes something of its charm, I think. So I'll show you at the end of this how we're going to maintain the charm but still have it look in good condition, not used or abused. Okay, now this is going to take a good while to dry because it's going to be in the pockets of the wood and from the sandblast. You can hit it with a heat gun if you don't get too close. You don't want to cook anything, but it would be just fine if you wanted to wave it around at 18 inches or a foot away from the nozzle of a heat gun and let it be thoroughly dry before we move on. And I think that looks pretty good. Now it's got kind of a metallic black looking thing going on here, but don't worry about that. It's all going to change. Alrighty.